I think that there is a common sense notion that human beings ought to live up to their better natures. We ought to be good. We ought to be the kind of noble creatures that we are created to be. And so to aspire to that is a good thing. And so if religious enterprise is properly aware that the problem is man's rebellion against God and his violation of goodness in some sense, then to fix it, one would think, well, let's just repair that. Let's just be better. That makes sense in a certain degree. But one thing it doesn't take into consideration is the culpability for crimes already committed. I mean, if you happen to be a criminal 20 years ago, the fact that you're an upstanding citizen now doesn't somehow pay for those crimes of the past. You still owe for those things, and those things are still hanging over your head. In fact, all the good things that you have done since then are all things you should have done anyway in obedience to the law of the land. You know, it isn't like you get credit for keeping the law. I mean, you don't have the district attorney send you a letter and say, gee, I've noticed your record. You haven't committed any crimes in the last 6 months or a year. Why don't you go out and knock off a few gas stations on us? You got credit in your account. You know, it doesn't work that way. We're obliged to do what the law says. When we break the law, we're guilty, and we ought to be punished for breaking the law. Now, if after we're guilty of breaking some laws, we go on and keep the rest of them, it doesn't make up for the ones we broke. And see, this is where religion's got it wrong. A lot of the objections against Christianity amount to, well, there are other people that are more moral people than Christians. How is it that Christians go to heaven and non-Christians don't? Well, they misunderstand the whole thing. They think that being more moral is what matters. But that isn't what matters, because you can't be moral enough to make up for past crimes. The problem is, how do you deal with the crimes? How do you deal with the rebellion against God that's on your ledger? We each got a rap sheet. He's making a list and he's checking it twice. This is not good news unless there is a Redeemer who can pay for those crimes, each and every one of them, so they are not just removed from the rap sheet, but they are canceled out. They are paid for. And this is exactly what Jesus did on the cross. And this is why Jesus is the only way, because he's the only one who solved the problem. You see, you can't answer the question about which way is the right way, is the only way, unless you have a clear fix on the problem. If you have a wrong estimation of what that is, then you're going to come up with a wrong solution. We realize deep down inside that the problem is our rebellion against God. This is why every one of us suffers from a bad self-image, which is informed by the guilt we have about the things that we've done wrong. We know there's something wrong with us, and even though we try to keep it from other people, we can't keep that from ourselves. And I've asked audiences many, many times in the university, I said, why is it we feel guilty? I don't know, maybe society causes guilt. We can talk about that. I guess that's a possible answer. But how about this? Maybe we feel guilty because we are guilty. Is that in the running? Seems to me that's a reasonable possibility. And if we feel guilty because we are guilty, the answer to guilt is not denial. The answer to guilt is forgiveness. And this is where Jesus comes in, precisely at the point of genuine human need. No one else did that.